Welcome, wrestling fans, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is a wrestling podcast created by fans for the fans. This is episode 166. I am your host, collector, barber, singer, guitar player of Fall Bright, and most importantly, a professional wrestling podcaster, Talk Wrestling, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, the Architect of Pro Wrestling Podcast, Andy.
And it just wouldn't be a PW Fan show without one of us having issues. Apparently, Jeremy's having some computer issues, so he's getting on shortly. Let's tell the people right now, Andy, we're the hardest working pro wrestling podcast out there. Is no money, faulty equipment, and we still make it happen. Every week, every other week. We're not going anywhere. Here we are. Andy, what do you got for us today for episode 166?
This week is the fallout of the Elimination Chamber on the WWE side, and then on the AEW side, we got the Revolution pay-per-view from this past Sunday night. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. I guess I should say, though, before, did you already do socials?
Well, I was going to wait till the end to, switch it up. But since Andy brought it up, before we get started, we'd really appreciate it if you followed us on Instagram at the PW Fan. On what's the TikTok one that you run?
Everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's the PW Fan.
It's just the PW Fan?
Yep.
And then X is the PW Fan. We don't really use it. That platform's a toxic abyss.
Instagram and TikTok are our mains.
Yeah, Instagram and TikTok is where it's at. If you want to support us with a couple T-shirts, we got a few different designs up at prowrestlingtees.com/the PW Fan. YouTube, honestly, most importantly, if you want to see us on video and our ugly mugs, go to youtube.com/the PW Fan Pod, where we kindly ask you to subscribe. Well, Andy, I've done all the social media intros that you've asked. Now, do you want to tell us about today's episode?
All right, let's start with Dynamite. AEW this week was it was a go home shows. Not too much on Collision, but I'll get into it. On Dynamite, MJF would start the show with a video. He has an upcoming match with Hangman Adam Page. There was the Swerve Strickland and Ricochet contract signing, which of course things don't always go well with that. Will Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Mark Briscoe teamed up and defeated the Murder Machines, Brian Keith, and Mark Davis. The losing side would attack afterwards, and Kyle Fletcher would also come out to get his piece of Will Ospreay. Cope would have a match in which he would defeat Wheeler Yuta. Afterwards, he would cut a promo on Yuta, shake his hand, and say that's how you show respect. Mox would come out and bullies Yuta, who ends up walking out. Mox is kind of mad at Yuta for not being vicious lately. He follows Yuta backstage, tells him to keep walking, and then cuts a promo to the camera on Cope backstage. There was a segment with MJF and Hangman.
Can I ask you? I mean, we don't. I know we're sticking to the format and we're just trying to get through some AEW stuff. But I just wanted to ask you. Just me and you. Jeremy's not here yet. What do you? I don't think I've asked you. You're my brother. What do you think about Cope? I thought
we got into that when it first happened, but it hasn't grown.
No,
I
don't. No. I don't mean the name, really. I mean, the name is its own thing, but we love Edge. Me and you, we're brothers. We grew up loving Edge. Edge is the man. All different incarnations of Edge. Does this AEW run? Is it, besides the debut, which was very cool, does this kind of feel kind of like a bummer run?
I guess I'd say I'd be more interested in him if he was in WWE doing stuff.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Edge, though, and he had a good point, he made that great, maybe the bit, regardless of the AEW run and how you feel about it, like maybe one of the best Rumble comeback entrances ever, if not the best. He looked great. He was jacked, had the long hair. He was looking good. And then that whole run, I mean, he wound up in the main event of WrestleMania twice. He had one of them was against Randy with no crowd, but then he was in the triple threat with Roman and Daniel Bryan, right?
Yeah,
which is a great match. Yeah, which is a great match. I mean, I guess his point was like, what else am I gonna do there? But at the same time, I just wish in AEW he just was like, I don't know, like it was just like he was like the man, I guess, like the top guy. I don't know.
Like I could picture
Sometimes,
him if he had stuck around. I could have pictured him in that match at the Elimination Chamber with
yeah,
Cena with Punk.
it's interesting, right? How presentation on television makes such a difference. Like,
Maybe he's happier. I don't know if we could be wrong.
well,
Yeah.
dude, and that's perfectly valid and great for him. I just think as a fan of his, I just was like, I picture him up in this like upper echelon tier. And sometimes when I do see him doing the stuff he's doing, I'm like, come on, you're the man. Like, you don't got to
Edge.
do this stuff. You're Edge.
Um,
I
you
feel
know
that way
what's?
about Ric Flair before he got like just too
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah.
You know.
You know what sucks
Well, you
about
got to
Edge?
think Edge is in great shape compared to Ric Flair when he was the same age, but Edge is like that age of like when
Yeah.
Flair was like starting to do stuff that you'd be like, come on, you don't do this. You're the
Well,
man.
maybe he realized that after jumping off the cage against Malachi Black.
Yeah.
No, you know what sucks about Edge's run though? I think people forget maybe is like when he came back to WWE in the Rumble, basically went straight into the pandemic, right? Like
Well,
that
yeah.
mania.
And I just want to, as a fellow podcasting nerd, like I was such a huge fan of the ENC pod of awesomeness. So, and they used to talk about like, well, if we ever came back, and they kind of like hint at it. And when Edge finally did come back, I got like emotional because I
It
listened to
was
that pod
crazy.
like every week. Yeah.
But I think people forget that at Backlash, the greatest wrestling match ever, whatever, he got injured. And he got hurt and was off or out for a while during the pandemic.
Haven't they straight up said though? Like, I think Edge has both, like Ed and Randy have been like Vince with the whole greatest wrestling match ever thing. They were like,
So
"Don't
stupid.
do this."
Yeah.
They're like, didn't Edge say straight up like that? It can't be done. Then it's never been done before.
Probably. I'd have to go.
Like
I feel like I heard it in an interview. I couldn't tell you where though.
just the pressure. The greatest match ever.
In front of no crowd. The greatest match ever.
God, dude, COVID was such a dark time when you think back on it. It was so weird.
You stopped watching.
No, well, I just can't watch wrestling without fans. It's part of the.
It
It's
was
part
rough,
of it.
man. It was rough. It just became the norm for a little while. Like it was wild. And then they did a
Dude,
rumble in front of no fans. That's the one that Edge won. That he would have end up facing Daniel Bryan and Roman.
I know, and I know this is like a side tangent because like we all lived it and went through it, but like it's crazy when you think back that first of all that was like 5 years ago, but like the other thing is, dude, 5 years ago, first of all, there's like some like eighth grader that's now going to college, and like that's how much time since COVID has passed, and that always fucks me up. But the other thing that's like I remember like going to Starbucks with like a mask on and being like, I'm gonna die if I get this coffee,
Yeah.
and like no one knew. Like it was
And not at first.
what a time. All right. Anyway, but God, what a time.
Mm. Hey, speaking of, I didn't think he was going to show up tonight, but Cody is out on Raw. I don't think John's coming though. But I think Cody's going to address it.
Yeah, we had Andy and I had a discussion earlier before the show started. We thought I had thought John Cena was coming out tonight to address the not the allegations, but to address the the situation.
So let's keep. So after Cope, with the MJF and Hangman segment, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford would defeat Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander. Mercedes Moné had a backstage segment with Renee. Max Caster continues this greatest wrestler alive open challenge, in which Jay White would accept this past week, and Jay White would win very early. It did not take long at all. Tony Storm and Mariah May had their sit-down interview for their upcoming match, and then the main event was Ricochet and Okada teaming up and defeating Swerve and Brody King. So that was Dynamite. Collision, real quick.
I love that. I love that. We're gonna get into it, but I love that on pay-per-view, Brody King finally made Okada work for that shit. He was like, "No, No lazy wrestling with me. You're gonna
Yeah.
work hard, and they did.
No, I mean, I think we said before. I'm glad Brody King is doing his singles
I love Brody King,
run.
dude.
Yeah.
Fuck it, God sake. Did you see his jacket? It said Los Angeles Straight Edge. He came
Yeah.
out with all the hardcore stuff. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So Collision had a backstage promo from Cope. Mobo Watanabe would end up taking out Mercedes after her win. Jeremy does not sure if he'll be able to get on because of how long it's going to take to fix his mic, just to keep y'all updated. So it might just be being Tim for here on out.
it might be a Forrester Boys pod, which is fine. And here's the thing. Let me just chime in here, guys. You're our only hope. If you want us to do this to make the big bucks, get us sponsors. I mean, it's only you. Only you have the power. You're like Zordon, and we're just the Rangers. You know.
We gain followers literally every day on TikTok, which is nice. That's great. I love it.
No, it's great.
But I wish it was faster.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. But the thing is, we're a bunch of dweeb nerds who we're just giving our opinions on wrestling. You know, we're not a Steven Richards or a Maven who start a podcast and they immediately are successful day one because of who they are. But you know what? At the same time, as long as we're having a good time, who cares? But what I'm getting at is, you know, yeah, sometimes we got technical difficulties. Sometimes a family matter comes up or something comes up, but we're here and we're not going anywhere. Let's fucking go. That's what I'm saying. Let's go. All right, just kidding.
We had back-to-back promos, one from Will Ospreay, one from Kyle Fletcher, both backstage. Another backstage promo from Moxley, responding to Cope's earlier backstage promo. Mariah May would attack Toni Storm at the Queen of the Ring premiere, that movie that we've talked about that had just come out. And then Daniel Garcia would retain his TNT championship against Lee Moriarty.
I just want to throw one more thing out to the people out there. If you ever y'all those listeners who maybe don't, we know that you're there but you don't communicate with us. If you ever do get us to the point where this is what we do full time, I will work for you. I will watch all the wrestling. I will watch NXT. I will do everything. Just get us there. I'll watch every wrestling ever. I'll go to every indie show.
Sorry, I'm reading a quote that I want to get to before I forget.
There's no quotes here, okay?
You know,
we don't
happened,
quote.
It happened at Revolution. Look, since I brought up Queen of the Ring, one of the actresses that was at ringside, they interviewed her because they're promoting the movie, and she said she's getting hate for this. She said, "One thing I learned about pro wrestlers, you all know you're going to win before anybody else does. So thank you for teaching me that." I was just like,
What? What? At this point, why would she get hate for that? Everybody knows.
I know.
It's not 1983. People know what the deal is. This is the lady who plays the main star?
No, this is someone else in the movie that was out there promoting.
I was gonna say because the main character, the girl, was on Corny's pod.
No, so it's Damaris Lewis who plays Babs Wingo.
That's who's getting heat,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to just randomly, Bryce Remsburg is the fucking man. Got to see him on pay-per-view last night. Shout out to Bryce. Love you, Bryce.
One of Tim's clients.
He goes to a little bit of all of us, but he always makes it a point. Here's what's cool about Bryce. He has a bald head. If anybody doesn't know, I'm talking about Bryce Remsburg is the one of the main referees in AEW, top 2, I would say. But Bryce is bald. He comes in to get his beard lined up. It's, a chance for him to relax and just hang out. And even if I'm not the one who does his beard that day, he always makes it a point to say bye to me and calls me by my name. Bryce is a cool guy. So shout out to Bryce.
He knows you're a wrestling fan.
Well, we talk about it all the time, first of all.
Yeah.
And I think he knows I'm not like somebody who I talk to him very respectfully when I talk about wrestling with him.
Yeah, you're
It's
not
not my
like
world. It's not my world. It's his world. So when he's in my chair, although I'm a fan and on the podcast I have my opinions, when I'm talking to him directly, you know, that's his world.
Yeah,
I'm giving him that space, but he knows.
cool. I don't know why my throat's like tickling. All right, I'm gonna try to get through this. Revolution opened up strongly, I think. MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. Them boys crushed it. Hangman's back in the good graces of the fans.
The worst hair.
Oh yeah, Tim has hair heat with him.
Bro got a perm or something. I don't know what you're doing, but stop. Let her ride again.
How'd you feel about the match? Hangman would end up going over. Strong opener. A good way to open the show, I thought.
Yeah, but I thought it was a fantastic match. First of all, well, two things. It's perfect that I started off by giving a shout out to Bryce because he was the ref in this match.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought these two guys worked their aces off, man. They worked hard. It was a really good match.
Yeah, I'm reading here. Page got a haircut, echoing back to his days in Ring of Honor, potentially signifying an impending rebirth in the coming weeks. Is that what it looked like in the early days?
I don't know. I remember when he was chubby, wearing tights, and he just had like a Hangman Bullet Club shirt on.
By the way, did you see the fucking angel's wings that he took from Hangman and landed on his fucking face?
Oh, dude. So Sky and I were when Sky is my wife for anybody who doesn't understand that reference. So my wife and she's sitting with me last night, just kind of TikToking, and I'm watching the pay-per-view, and we've been together over a decade. She's watched a lot of wrestling. She even was kind of a fan at one point before
she's kind of Raw and stuff with you.
Well, no, I mean, one of Andy's ex-girlfriends and my wife were close, and they actually, for a little bit, became wrestling fans before they just were kind of like, yeah, whatever, which, happens. But my wife's watched a lot of wrestling, so she knows what she's watching. So I go, hey, babe, I'm going to rewind this. I just want you to look at this guy taking this move real quick. And when he hits him with the angel's wings and his face went down on the mat, even my wife was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like she, but here's the thing. Cause before that, we were watching the replays. I was like, look, here's the dead eye. You can see that his head and neck, like, didn't even come close. Yeah. And then I was like, here's this move. You can see it was done super safely. I was like, but look at this. And she immediately like caught like his face just getting annihilated on the mat.
Do you think it's cause it's not his move, he doesn't do it a lot? Or do you think just MJF didn't come up enough, or some kind of disconnect?
I don't even think it's any of that. I think it's just sometimes it's hazards of the job, And
it was towards the end of the match. I'm sure they were tired. Like, it's just
and clearly no one was actually hurt. I'm sure it didn't feel great for MJF's face when he came down, but I'm sure the move was done safely. He just maybe was a little like low or something.
So no, it was a nice way to open up the show. Hangman Adam Page would end up getting the win in the end. Then we had the TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe. Mercedes kind of showed her toughness more in this match with Momo.
Oh, this was a great match. So I'm not going to lie, full transparency. I was originally going to fast forward this because I was behind. But here's the thing. I like the way, I don't like her character in AEW, but I think Mercedes is a great wrestler. She's a big Eddie Guerrero fan. I'm a big Eddie Guerrero fan. So I always am intrigued to see what she's going to do.
And I ended up watching Momo,
I ended up watching the whole match, and I thought it was great. And I even texted Andy, and I said, yo, they just worked their asses off.
Yeah, I mean, I think we called Mercedes.
And retaining. There's another, and I hate to call it a girls' match, but there's another badass women's match.
It was crazy. Yeah.
With the blood. I mean, so this pay-per-view was...
Dude,
it was great.
AEW doesn't miss with pay. That's like we say it every time.
Even Conrad tweeted right before the main event, he was like, imagine having to be the main event of the show where like
Yeah.
every match was. Here's the thing, AEW does. Tony Khan, great matchmaker. It's just sometimes
There's a storytelling disconnect, man.
the storytelling is just what kills me. But dude doesn't miss with dream matches. Like that's what he talks about.
It's
Like,
getting to the match is the rough part, and then you have the match. It's like,
but here's the thing. Like when he talks about how he used to be like in the message boards, fantasy booking, bro is great at that. Like he puts together a mean show. It's just the week to week sometimes that I'm like, ugh. I'm like, some of these storylines just like aren't hitting. But God, the pay-per-views are great.
I know. I
But
laugh
imagine
about
it.
It's every time, dude.
But what if you had both?
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what if both were good?
You know, I feel like at one point in the beginning it was.
It was.
Or WWE was just so bad.
You go back to the beginning of this podcast. We're 100%. It's an AEW. It's an AEW Pro podcast.
Yeah.
And Vince was still in charge, and Punk was in AEW, and there was a lot of things going on. Just things shift over time, but I still don't think it's like too late or anything. I still think if someone else maybe was helping writing the week, if Tony came up with like, this is the pay-per-view that I want to do, these are the matches, I need help writing the show to get there, I think it could be good. Because he always hits.
Well, then
he
it's
always
like
hits with the pay-per-view.
Right. Do you think Jericho writes his own shit?
I think him, Moxley, MJF, the Bucks. I think all those guys get to pick and choose what they do.
Yeah, maybe sometimes like everyone that's a wrestler getting to choose how the story plays out just doesn't work.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Say what you want about Vince McMahon. Look, yeah, the dude is he's not a good man. He's all those things that we already know. But if we're talking strictly
bad
guy. if we're talking strictly wrestling, everybody over the years has said what Vince's genius was maybe not coming up with the original idea, but what his genius was, whether it was Vince Russo or maybe someone like a Chris Jericho, someone pitching him ideas and him filtering the idea and being like, okay, well, we can do this, we can do that. That's where his genius was. So sometimes he could take some of these ideas that maybe wasn't the best, and then he made it into something that was big.
The egg.
Well, by then he had already lost it. I don't know what he was doing there.
Oh my God.
He gave up at that point.
All right, so where are we? After Mercedes Moné, Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet, number one contender bout for the AEW World. It's a number one contender for the AEW World title. Winner was Swerve. Another
banger, another banger match. This pay-per-view was crazy. I mean, every match was good.
So Ricochet won at their first match in Atlanta, and Swerve won this one. I gotta say, like Ricochet, like he makes me hate him. So if that's his job, being the heel he is right now, like
he's doing
good
great.
For you.
You're
fucking annoying.
Well, he seems in a weird way more comfortable as this. It seems more natural.
Which is weird because I felt like maybe that's just how he was before. Like he never turned heel in WWE.
Yeah, but you got to think what was that, 10 years ago he came to WWE?
Yeah. I don't know if he was ever a bad guy in the indies either.
Yeah, but okay, so let's say you go 15 years. That means for 15 years he's had to be like smiley and high-fiving everybody, and I'm just going to work so hard and do my best. Like after a while it's probably Cena. Fun. Right. After a while it's
20 plus years.
Look, Jericho said the same thing. That's where I stole that line from. He's like, I'm just going to go out there and do my best. Yeah. Like he's like, it gets boring. You finally want to go out there and
everyone says it's more fun to be a heel anyway. You're kind of like less constrained.
I don't think Cena retires as a heel, which is a different conversation, but
no, I don't
he's probably having fun doing it.
Yeah. All right. what you were talking about earlier, Okada versus Brody King, Continental Championship. You said Brody made Okada work.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Brody's a big ass dude, so I don't think he was like, I'm doing my thing. You can come along with me or not.
Yeah.
Like he's like, I'm gonna pick your ass up. So like Okada was moving.
Yeah, I mean Brody is a wrestler that I feel like should be taken seriously, even by the top
I
guys. Like he's one of
I
those.
think I think he has a great future. I think he's one of the cooler and I don't just mean this because I'm like a fan of his band. I think he has a good look. I think now that the House of Black has kind of stopped, he's kind of come into his own. He's a big dude. I mean, he's intimidating and he fights like a very Japanese Stan Hansen like hardcore style where I think he only knows, and this is just my opinion. I think he only knows how to go one gear, and that's 100%. And I think he went into this match and he was like, Okada's going to either work or not, and he did. So
For sure. Next match, I mean, it was basically a squash match. AW Tag Team Championships, Hurt Syndicate versus the Outrunners. They destroyed them.
waste of time.
And then, all right, so the one you were talking about, AW Women's World Championship, Toni Storm versus Mariah May in a Hollywood ending match.
Crazy.
It was bloody.
Jim Ross on commentary,
Yeah, they. I mean, they
which was
crushed it.
surprising.
This was their third encounter, so maybe it's the final ending to. Well, on the screen it said the end, like the whole
I've
movie thing.
besides Beulah McGillicuddy wrestling Fonzie in ECW, I've never seen a woman's match with so much blood. And maybe that's because I don't watch enough indie or Japanese wrestling, but that was crazy.
I'm trying to
Like
think back to some.
I've never seen that. They were like Eddie Guerrero, JBL
Yeah,
level of
both of
blood.
them. Yeah, no, they're
Shawn
good. I
Michaels,
mean,
Triple H, like it was a lot.
it's been a good rivalry with those two. So this is where I picked up today is our next match. Takeshita versus Kenny Omega for the International Championship. Kenny Omega won his. No, what am I saying? I was going to say won his first singles title. Won his first singles title since the world title, which was years ago. So he is now the international champion after I think his third singles match with Takeshita.
Isn't it terrifying to think though that Kenny's world title run, his
Why do one?
world title
His
run was literally years ago. Sideburns Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Wasn't it on the end
Dude,
of the
time
pandemic?
goes by too fast. Yeah,
Wasn't like the end of the pandemic though.
yeah, but that was his best work, dude.
Yeah, I know.
When he was like heel Kenny and he was like cutting promo. I don't
Wearing
know. I still
suits
think that
when
was
he was paired with Don Callis. Yeah.
his best. Even his biggest critic, old Corny, was like, "This was good. Like he did a good job. Like he had something." I liked him as a bad guy.
Yeah, me too. Alrighty, Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage match. Will Ospreay just tried to kill Kyle Fletcher, dude.
This match was a little too crazy for me, but it was very good.
It was nuts, man. I
The
mean,
Spanish fly at the end made me my beehole puckered.
so after both men have been bloodied throughout, crazy moves. I mean, crazy reversals. They climb to the top. Will Ospreay does a Spanish fly to Kyle Fletcher
there was
off
a
the top
little
of the
bit
cage.
of there was a little bit of latency in the Spanish fly where you thought maybe both dudes were going to come down head first, which scared me.
Yeah,
And
Ospreay ended up changing in the air a way that like wasn't as bad.
that's when my beehole puckered because I was
And
like,
then
oh, they're both gonna. I said, oh, they're both gonna get paralyzed, and
Kyle,
then they both landed safely.
they're both gonna get there. And then Kyle is like looking at Will, and he's like, "Fuck you! I fucking hate you!" And Ospreay hits him with the hidden blade, and then with the what was it, the Tiger Driver?
97,
Yeah, and then he gets
which
the
is a
win.
video game reference.
I was wondering why it's 97, but
He
I was
loves
like,
Final Fantasy and video games. It's all
but
Sega
I
shit.
was like, it can't be his age because I know he's older than me.
No.
So, alrighty. So that was a like to follow
I
that
think
was
me
kind of crazy.
I think
But
me and him are like the same age. He might be like a year older than
really,
me. Yeah.
so to follow that match was kind of crazy. But the main event was Moxley versus Adam Copeland. Cope didn't start off with a lockup. Started off, heavy hits right away.
Brawling.
Yeah. Wheeler would get involved at one point. The briefcase, Jay White would come out, take out Wheeler. He would accidentally, I think, hit Cope with the briefcase because I just got done watching this right before we started recording. And then I think, yeah, Mox is about to pin Cope. Guy in a hoodie comes out, pulls the ref out. It's Christian. He cashes in his contract, his guaranteed title contract. It becomes a 3-way. Christian would hit Cope with a spear, and I think Cope would kick out, and then Moxley would do his bulldog choke on Christian, and the bell would ring. So on the way out of the arena, after Moxley retained, he's going out through the stands. Swerve is up high on like the railing, and he would end up house calling, or no, Swerve stomp down onto Moxley from up above because now Swerve is the
that move, very similar to the Finn Balor coup de grace, but gosh, it gets me every time. It scares me. You just crush him.
So that was the pay-per-view. I mean, it was good pay-per-view. It's just like we said, getting there sometimes can be rough to watch.
Great show overall, though. Gotta give the credit and props where, we like we said, we've said 10, 15 times throughout this episode, like it's the week to week can be rough, but God, what a good show.
Doesn't really disappoint you. So
No, it never does. It's always, I have to give him.
Couldn't tell you the last one that disappointed. I really couldn't.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if anybody from AEW's either management or behind the scenes ever actually hears this episode, I would say that the one thing we would say is the pay-per-view that you buy, for me, is always worth the money. It's never a waste of money. So you're doing that great.
At least
as a
for me,
fan.
there's some kind of disconnect weekly, but I can only speak for myself. Maybe some people love it.
I mean, that's the thing. Look, we're just one majority, and if Jeremy was here, he might have a little bit of a different take.
I think lately he's like, it's kind of rough.
I mean,
Collision's always rough for me. Collision, we'll all agree. Collision's always like,
there's some stuff where it feels like they just don't care, or there's just not a lot of direction. But Dynamite is, I feel like that's Tony's baby. He's always gonna.
It's hit or miss. Sometimes I'm like, Dynamite wasn't bad this week, and then other times I'm like, I don't know what just.
Oh, well, you hear the stories about.
I can't stand Moxley's promos, and he's a big part of the show right now.
But you hear the stories about how just the murmuring about like Tony doesn't have the show ready in time and it feels rushed. But maybe on the nights that he does finish it on time, it's good.
True.
I mean, the dude's got a lot going on. Here's the thing. Like, he might be younger than me. That's a lot of pressure. I'm not going to like just beat up on the guy all the time. Yeah. That's a big undertaking.
So that being said, let's switch over to WWE. No, Tony Khan's not younger than he's 42.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, great genetics, Tony. You look great.
He's 42.
You look fantastic.
He's 10 years old.
I thought he was a Gen Zer.
No. For the way he acts.
It was the haircut. the curly top is what convinced me.
So Raw this past week.
Really? He's that much older than me? Yeah. God damn. All right, you look great. Is he an edgeman? Is he a straight edge guy? Oh no. Never mind.
I have no idea.
All right, never mind. All right, keep going.
CM Punk would open up Raw this past week. If you remember, he had some fired up promos for The Rock, Cena, and Seth Rollins. Remember when he said Dwayne?
He's like, you bald fraud. This was a great promo.
And then he goes over to Johnny. He's like, "We all see
And
you
then
now."
and then he
He's
calls
like, "I gave you the
Cena
benefit of
bald.
the
He
doubt."
calls Cena bald fraud at the end too.
Yep. But Seth
You
would end up
never
coming
understand what losing your hair does to a man.
out. Seth would end up coming out, and they would just brawl all over the place for a long time. It
Great
was
segment.
intense. It was great. Good opener.
Great, awesome, good segment. Old school, reminded me of being a kid watching Raw in like 03, just Triple H and Shawn Michaels killing each other all over the arena.
I mean, does a Punk segment ever disappoint? Come on.
Never. It never does. And I don't care what anybody says. It never does.
And I can't wait for this main event tonight. Tim's wearing his
cage
Punk
match.
jacket. He's ready.
And the PW fan shirt available now on ProWrestlingTees.com.
The original design. All right. Gunther would defeat Otis. This was a match coming off of Gunther's match with Akira Tozawa the week before. Afterwards, he would continue to attack. Jey Uso would come out to help. Randomly, in my opinion, A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller would attack Jey. And
Grayson fucking Waller.
Gunther would end up choking out Jey in the end. Backstage, Liv tells Raquel to keep an eye on the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Let's see. Karrion Kross manipulates AJ Styles into calling out Logan Paul next week. I saw a tweet that Karrion Kross had responded to, and it was just like, is anyone paying attention that every time like Karrion Kross does one of these backstage like devil on your shoulder thing, his hair is done like the person he's talking to. All right, so when he got in AJ's ear backstage, he straightened his hair.
Yeah.
And then with Sami Zayn, he had an up and a bun somewhat, and then the rest like down. And then Karrion Kross like responded to it and was like, "You, sir, are in. Like you are picking up on it." I don't think many people like know.
It was very good.
It's a subtle thing he's doing.
I never noticed it, and it was a good point.
Yeah, and look at it like next time, like whoever he talks to. Lyra Valkyria would retain her Women's Intercontinental Championship against Ivy Nile. Adam Pearce would announce that Punk versus Rollins is in a steel cage match for next week, aka tonight. Ludwig Kaiser would cut a promo on Penta. Penta would come out to fight, would end up standing tall in the end. Did you see this video of Chad Gable made it to Mexico? He got a luchador mask. Yeah, he ended up getting a luchador mask from, well, they didn't show the guy's face, but he made it to Mexico, and without spoiling anything, I think he showed up tonight, but it was not revealed. So Chad Gable's trying to learn the dark arts, if I remember, is what he said. The War Raiders, after Chad Gable made it to Mexico and got the mask, the War Raiders would retain their titles against the Creed brothers. Did you get a chance to see this Braun Breaker and Finn Balor segment? These two are feuding. Some tension going on between the two.
I am looking forward to that too. Not an expected rivalry, I was thinking.
Dude, I'm telling you, 2025, the year of Finn. Let's get it.
You've called it.
Dude, I hope. There's been some subtle things. Io Sky would defeat Rhea Ripley, and surprisingly, I was not expecting it. And she is now the new champion. Rhea Ripley no longer.
Yeah, I was big into this. I was stoked.
You were stoked for Io winning?
Yeah, I thought it was something different. It was a little bit of a change, and it's not like Rhea's not gonna get it back in the future.
So I don't know what happened, man. Last year, Io was the champion going into Mania against Bayley, in which Bayley would end up winning. but her run leading up to it was like lackluster. And then since Mania, people have gotten behind Io again, and it's like, God, I hope this run is better. But right now, with Io being the champion, it becomes Bianca versus Io at Mania, and I feel like Rhea's going to get inserted into that, and it's going to be a triple threat for the women's world title. So Io,
Yeah.
Rhea, and Bianca.
And then you get them all at Mania, which is good. And they all get
Yeah.
to be on the show.
Yeah. So that was the main event of Raw. Let's get into SmackDown. Before anything really happened, Drew McIntyre attacked Damian Priest backstage. This would come back later.
This is
Randy,
gonna be their Mania match.
yeah, and there was the rumors before that Drew was not happy about it. Yada yada yada.
Is that why he? Is any of the stuff of him walking out real, or is that all? Was that all just?
I mean, I think, but you really never know. Things could be leaked for one thing to hype up the match more.
Yeah.
Seems to be going fine with them though. Okay, where am I now? So Randy, I believe, would officially open up the show. He had a 10-minute promo. Still wants to go after Kevin Owens, of course, after everything that happened. But he did bring up like John Cena and stuff, and he was taken back when everyone booed. Isn't it weird? There's a time now where Randy Orton's a babyface and John Cena's a heel.
Never existed before.
Yeah, never. And I see montages all the time of like Buzzhead Randy. Like he was a menace, man. Like
Oh yeah,
little kids
but, dude,
hated him.
Here's the thing. I think everybody thinks that John's gonna go back to being the word life thugonomics, and I'm like, that's not.
He's
It's
too
gonna
old
be
to be
something
doing
else.
that.
It's gonna be something else.
It's like that picture of Steve Buscemi with like the red hat. And he's like, "What's up, my dude?" Like,
No, I know
as a
that's not what
skateboard.
he's not doing that.
I mean, I hope
smart.
not.
John's too
He
smart.
did it for that little tease at Mania a few years ago, but like other than that, like he does not need to do that. I
No.
don't think.
It just would be dumb. It's like outdated too.
Yeah. It doesn't work. Right.
20 years too late or more.
Yeah, he hasn't been that since like 03, 04.
Yeah. So over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Women's champion Tiffany Stratton would defeat Piper Niven. Afterwards, Charlotte Flair would attack. We had Pretty Deadly versus Mercy Machine Guns versus Los Garza. Winner faces the winner of DIY and Street Profits. Winner of that triple threat tag team match was Pretty Deadly. We got to hear from Bianca Belair. She talked about the attack. She called out Naomi. This segment was weird. Naomi started like crying, and I saw something funny about it. Hold on 1 second. Let me find it. So yeah, Bianca came to the ring to address, winning the chamber, but also talk about Jade attacking Naomi. Naomi came out. She asked her if she attacked Jade, but Naomi kept trying to deflect it. Dramatically, she ended up revealing that it was her. And then this part I'm reading here said, but much like Rikishi did it for The Rock, Naomi said she did it for Bianca.
Oh my God. I did it for The Rock. I did it for Bianca.
So Naomi, freaked out. She cried as Bianca walked away. And in the end, as Bianca's walking away, Naomi would yell out and call her an ungrateful bitch. This would then have Jade Cargill come out, and Bianca just looks at Jade and just gives her permission to go after Naomi. We had Solo Sikoa versus Braun Strowman. This would end in a DQ via Tamatonga. Jacob Fatu would come out. There would be a brawl. We had Michin versus Chelsea Green in a street fight. Do you remember the tag team Unholy Union? It was the Scottish girls, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Well, Isla Dawn was released, but Alba Fire in the middle of the street fight would take out Michin, allowing Chelsea Green to retain. Said it before. When I feel like sometimes I'm the only guy that ever watched NXT UK. All right, over there, Alba Fire Alba Fire was the longest reigning NXT Women's champion, or NXT UK Women's champion. Her name was Kaylee Ray, and now she goes by Alba Fire. But she's great, and she came in. She did a what did she do? What's it? Like a Panama Sunrise? What else do they call it? Canadian Destroyer. She did a Canadian Destroyer.
Well, it's a little bit different, but I understand.
Well, one's on the top rope, the other's not. But, so yeah. So I guess they found something for her to do. She's now back in the picture. All right, let's talk about this Cody Rhodes segment. Him addressing Jamb Simba. Cody came out to address Cena's heel turn at the Elimination Chamber. He had a black eye. Still has a black eye. He's out there right now, or was earlier tonight. Said he's waiting for Cena to explain.
He had a black eye or a black guy?
He had a black eye.
Oh, okay. Just was making sure. I wasn't sure what was going on there.
He delivered a promo.
I didn't want you to say anything that you might regret later.
Yeah, he had a black eye with him. He told Cena to come get some. Tim said earlier that there was a part of it that sounded like Dusty.
Dude, hang on.
Do you really still have it up?
I have it up.
He'll play the portion that he says reminds him of a Dusty promo.
Cody turns into Dusty Rhodes, right here.
Just across the street, trying to finish a story that started in the late 70s. You cheered for me. You chose me again.
You chose me again. I was like, he is Dusty. Dusty is him.
Dusty is him. Do you think Cena's going to win at Mania?
Yes.
Yeah.
You chose me again.
Do you think tonight, in this Rollins-Punk steel cage, do you think Roman gets involved? Before we talk about next week, I'm letting it now.
I think both of those things happen.
Okay. All right. After Cody's segment, Jimmy Uso versus Drew McIntyre, in which Drew would end up winning. Damian Priest would come out and attack Drew. This is, like I said, coming off at the beginning of the show when Drew attacked Damian Priest backstage. And then the main event, LA Knight defeated Shinsuke Nakamura, once again becoming the United States champion. LA Knight is. I read, I don't know how true it is, but Shinsuke's contract is coming up soon, and there's no word on renewing it with him. Stop dragging the guy along. You're not ever doing anything worthwhile with him. Just let him go.
I mean, he's not going to ever be the
No, he'll get picked. Not WWE. He'll get picked up by AEW New Japan easily.
Easily, but I don't know, man. It's
you've always wanted him to just go back to the Michael Jackson New Japan. That's not going to happen in WWE. It's just not.
What I want is Shinsuke from NXT 2015,
like the
Michael
match
Jackson.
with Sami Zayn. Like
yes,
that was
and he has the dark entrance where he like flips down like he's Michael Jackson. That worked. Why are we not doing that?
Because Vince ruined it.
He's not there anymore, so fuck it.
Yeah, but the damage is done. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, all right? The genie's out.
But the damage was done. He covered up. And he looked at me and he said, "Someday this will all be yours."
The damage. Dude, no one's going to get that reference.
If they do, that's a Dane Cook 2002.
Is it Vicious Circle?
It's like 20 years ago.
Vicious Circle. Not to mention, hey, you know what's funny about that? Is that Raw tonight is in Madison Square Garden where that special was filmed.
And he covered up. But the damage was done.
He was like a wizard on a hill. And Tim's mic just cut off again right at the end of the show. So that does it. I'm wondering if I can think of a real quick. You know what? There's no classic show of the week. Let's just say if you haven't watched Revolution, it's worth watching. Yeah, definitely worth watching. Tim's back. Tim, I was saying no classic show of the week, but if you haven't watched Revolution, I would go out of your
It
way
was
to
a
watch
great.
it.
It was a fantastic show. I think everybody
Yeah.
should go watch that, enjoy it. Regardless of, again, we've mentioned it like 20 times, but regardless about how you feel about the week to week booking of AEW, pay-per-views don't miss, and this is a great show. And if you just want to see really good wrestling matches and fun matches, I would order it or do whatever you got to do to watch it. I won't judge, but or order it. Ordering it is the right thing to do. I'll say that.
I think right now they have a deal. They have a deal that if you order like there's like a package deal. I don't know. I mean, I told Jeremy, I said I don't know why I would want it, but you can buy both last night's Revolution and it comes with like 2024's Revolution as well. So, but that's it. Thanks for joining us for episode 166. We will see you all next week.